This next Ask Misty is really long. In fact, they used 5 questions to ask me on my form spring. Please don't do that anymore. Phrase it. Find a way to phrase it. Abbreviate your words or cut out detailed words like, I went on a really long walk through the park at night in December. It was really cold. And just say, I went on a really long walk and I met this guy. You know, instead of, you know, talking about how the grass was wet in your feet. That's a novel. I don't need a novel. Granted, some details are needed to get the question correct. But here's the question. The question is from a young person who's 20 years old and lives in the British Columbia. And they suffer from panic attacks and severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. The only 3 people that he feels are his true friends called on the day of his birthday and told him that they were not coming over and they didn't want to be his friend anymore. Because he has severe anxiety and he guesses that they couldn't deal with it anymore and it was too much of a burden on them to be friends with him. And since his birthday, his anxiety has gotten even more severe to where he's become pretty much of a hermit. And he's afraid to leave the house. He doesn't have any friends to talk to. And he's just afraid. And feels alone and scared. And he wants to know how to make new friends without being afraid of panic attacks. Well, this is the initial part is difficult because when you're friends with somebody, most people are friends with people for different reasons. Number one, of the fact that they're from the same place or they have something in common. Number 2, they can gain something from their friendship, like, ooh, I'm friends with her, she can get me into the bar for free, or she can get me into gay days in Orlando, or whatever. And then there's also people that are friends with others because they just like the way that they make them feel. They have a good time. They're positive people. And if you're suffering from panic attacks and anxiety, I can only imagine that you're also, I don't know you, so it's hard for me to say, but I can only imagine that you also complain a lot and you tend to be a little more negative. This could not be true. I'm just saying in my mind, it makes sense. And if your friends are like, ugh, every time I go over to his house, I don't have any fun, because all he does is talk about how horrible his life is and how crappy everything is and woe is me. And that's true. Nobody wants to be around that. Misery loves company, and so miserable people like to make other people miserable. And there's a time in your life when you just have to cut the fat. You have to. Be like, look, I think you're a great guy. I just can't be around you. You bring me down, and I don't want to be down. I'm sorry. And I don't necessarily believe that the way they did it was good. They should have at least went to your birthday party and then broke up with you as friends. Or given you a final chance. So, what do you do now? The only thing you can do, and this is just like when you break up with someone, like a boyfriend. After you break up with someone as a boyfriend, it's time to sit back and analyze yourself, what you did wrong, what you can do better. And it's so easy to point fingers. Ugh. He was such a horrible boyfriend. He never flushed the toilet. He never picked up after himself. He left dirty dishes in the bedroom. The whole house was a mess and he, you know, whatever. It's easy to point those fingers. But that's not how you're going to become better. It's not how you're going to grow. It's not how you're going to develop into a normal functioning human, an adult. You know, what you need to do is look in the mirror and be like, oh, I'm not a very good friend. And every time they come over, all I do is talk about this and that. I never ask them how they are. I never ask them how their life is. You know, and that, you know, try that for a while. And when you do make new friends, try not to talk about yourself at all. For the first day, just try to talk about them. Where they went to school, what their favorite color is, where they're from. And I think a lot of times when people, especially new friends, the more they talk about themselves, the more comfortable they get. Now, the tricky part is the only way you're going to make friends is if you leave your house. So being a hermit is not the answer. And I think that you should go out and find friends with the same in common activities. And a lot of times, as adults, especially within the gay community, we're very shallow. We don't want to date people that are fat or feminine. We don't want, you know, this, that. And that kind of sometimes trickles over to friends. Like, sometimes you'll notice that really hot friends only have hot friends. Why? You know, and I have a lot of hot friends. Some are models, etc. But sometimes the hotter the guys are, then they're not very fun to be around either. Because all they do is talk about themselves. And that's not fun either. So maybe what you should do is go join a club. Join something of a common interest. If you like chess, go play chess. Go and join a gay chess club. Go find something that you really like doing. Like, for example, I like to play cards. And on Monday nights here in Fort Lauderdale, there's a euchre card game. I love euchre. And I used to go every Monday and play euchre. And granted, when you're playing with these people, sometimes all I do is sit and play cards with them and talk small talk, and then I leave and go home alone. But you spent the entire evening with people. And whether, granted, sometimes we would go out and eat as groups, and sometimes we get to know each other and whatever. And sometimes, you know, we exchange phone numbers or whatever. But even if you didn't, you were still social, and you still got out of your house. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a therapist. So I don't have all the answers. You know, I just share from my heart because I have a wide variety of interests and backgrounds. But what I do think is that your agoraphobia and your anxiety comes from something in your life that is undealt with. Whether it's something from your past or your childhood or something traumatic that happened to you that you're having a hard time dealing with. And once you deal with that issue, it's going to start to disappear. Now, I don't know, like, for example, I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and there'd be times out when my mom was, you know, running to the grocery store, and she had to get this, and she had to go here, and drop us off with the babysitter so she can go to work or whatever. And there's times that I got left at the grocery store, and I'm running out of the grocery store freaking out, like, oh my God, my family's gone. And then my mom's halfway home, and she realizes that there's not 7 kids in the car. Uh-oh, so she had to come back. And, you know, for a long time, even in college, like, I would go out with my friends, especially people from my floor, my fraternity, or my sister wing, and people that I didn't know really well. If I rode with people I didn't know really well, and we'd go to, like, a fair or a water park or whatever, I would get nervous. Like, oh my gosh, what if they leave me here? I don't know how to get home. I don't know anybody here. And so I'd usually be like, can I please hold your car keys? I know it sounds weird, but can I just please hold them? You know, and the more I started realizing that it's okay to trust people, and when I started to deal with my abandonment issues, then it was easier. Now I'd go with people like, oh, let's go to Miami, sure, whatever. And it's fun, you know. It's better to deal with those issues so you can leave your house and have a good time. I don't know you, and I don't know the situation either, but it also could be, I don't know, because you're reaching out and you're asking and you're wanting help. But a lot of times also, I think a lot of people self-sabotage because they're afraid of getting too close. So they allow a certain amount of friends in, like, okay, I want to be friends with you, but I don't want to get too close. And the closer they get, they start to sabotage their own relationship because either they want you to prove that you really do want to be their friend, or you want them to go away subconsciously, and you sabotage your own relationship. And I'm not saying you did that, but make sure you didn't so it doesn't happen again to a new friend. Also, what about online games or things online? Start making friends online first, locally, like focus in your area, and then be like, oh, we're going to do a party somewhere, let's go do that. You know. But if your agoraphobia is debilitating, you should go see a therapist, a real one. Someone that you can sit down and talk to and share your fears. And just because you go see a therapist does not mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you need help. It means that you care about yourself and you want to be the best you can be. A lot of people see therapists that don't even need them. They just do it because, look, I need to talk about shit. And that's what they're there for. And a therapist is there to help you see your problems from a different point of view. Like, dude, every time I drive down that street, there's this big stop sign. And there's a pothole in the middle of the road, and I can't get to the other side. So I get frustrated and go home. And the therapist can sit there and be like, oh, did you ever think about turning right and going around the house and then coming out of the other side and take that way? What happens when you get to that stop sign? Is there a big pothole? You know, and they can help you see things that you didn't think about. And that's kind of what I try to do. I try to help you see things, you know, like you'll notice from my Ask Misties, I'm never like, oh, you should do this. You should break up with your boyfriend. But I try to tell you ways for you to see both sides of it so you can make the decision for yourself. Like, oh yeah, well, what if they thought this? What if they asked you because of that? You know, but if you do have a debilitating agoraphobia, if you're afraid of people, or if you are, you know, the last thing you want to do is become a hermit. You know, go see a therapist and start getting those issues and those underlying currents in your life, those problems, get them dealt with so that you can function. And not only that, but if you have anxiety, your therapist can probably prescribe you, I don't need anxiety medication, so I don't really know what it is, but like I think a Xanax helps with your anxiety. So maybe you need Xanax. But I don't know. You have to talk to a doctor. But that's what I definitely think. You should, you know, your life, you're 20 years old. You have so much ahead of you. You know, a lot of times when we're young, we think that when we turn 30, we're too old. But that's not the truth. The truth is you have at least 20 more years ahead of you. And you're still young. Don't be afraid to leave your house. Don't be afraid to make new friends. Don't sabotage your friendships. You know, the world is a beautiful place, and there's no reason for you to be locked in your house and ignore it. That was an Ask Misty. I hope I could help. Bye.